Percolating.
Hey, we're live.
Hello.
Welcome to the BAMF podcast, folks. And hey, here's our very special guest, Paul Malco. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great. How's everybody else doing today?
All right. And Paul is an RPG designer who just came out with a cool new game called Union City Heroes. So we're happy to have him on the podcast to talk about that. And we have our usual panel, Jacob, Brandon, who's labeled something else and is invisible in the Brady Bunch grid, and Alice, a.k.a. Lala, directly beneath me here. So I thought we would do that thing we usually do where we start off looking at pop culture stuff and then segue to talking about gaming stuff. And the pop culture stuff I had in mind was the new trailer that just came out like yesterday for the Black Widow movie.
Ooh. Yeah, just watched it this morning. It was awesome.
I do love me some Black Widow.
Yeah.
And I'll press play here in 1 second. We'll get going. Back to the start.
They're moved out west. You're a science teacher. Your husband, he renovates houses. You're thinking about moving, but you're going to wait until the interest rates go down.
That's not my story. Before I was an Avenger, I made mistakes. And a lot of enemies.
That little half hoodie he's got is cute.
He controls the Red Room. They're manipulated, fully
So
conscious.
you know he's a bad guy.
Just wish the mask was built a little better.
How many others are there?
Enough.
Did they send Domino to kill them?
Word all started.
I don't think so.
So they never do that to anyone again.
We're a family. We fight with you.
Is that Dark Star?
You won't win.
Red Star.
I've always found it best not to look into the past.
Okay, you got a plan, or shall I just stay duck and cover?
My plan was to drive us away.
Well, your plan sucks.
Hey, Walt.
Hola.
Hi, Walt. And yes, Domino is in the Black Widow movie.
Choose
Apparently fans are freaking out,
between what the world wants you to be and who you are.
I guess. Or no, maybe not. I'm not. Never mind. That was for a comic. I went to go look. That was for a comic. Never mind. I apologize.
Fake
I was
news.
like, that would
Fake
suck
news.
it. That would kind of suck if she was in it.
Are they different universes?
Yeah, right. I'm like,
So that
wait,
would be crazy news.
I know, right? But they
'Cause,
had they've had a couple crossover comics very recently, apparently.
Slouch. I'm not slouching.
You're going to get the back hunch.
Listen to your mother.
It's not a
Oh my
comic
God,
title I
this-
read, so.
All right, enough. All of you.
I didn't say anything. That's not fair.
Russian family time.
Yeah. That's the kind of superhero interaction I love. Is just everyone hanging out in costumes, eating a meal, just talking. I love doing that in my games at home.
What I wish would happen in every Fantastic Four movie and has never happened in any of them yet.
Exactly. The whole point of Fantastic Four is they're a family. They should be interacting like a family more often.
You know,
And I really like that about this movie, right? That looks like an important aspect of the character that's been missing up till now.
Well, you know, another movie is all about family. And I know this because it stars Vin Diesel.
Oh, Lord.
Walt, this is for you.
Uh-oh. Is it Bloodshot?
New Bloodshot trailer.
Oh, you know I love it. Although, Jason, what was his name? Jason Tommy Franks, whatever his name is.
Jason David Frank.
Yeah, he played a really good Bloodshot. No sound.
What?
Sorry, man.
I got all excited. I just forgot to, do it. Performance anxiety. All right, hang on a second.
This has never happened to me before.
I swear, this is the first time. All right, share audio. Boom. Boom. Scrolling back. Sorry, I get to see it all again.
There you go.
Shared sequence.
Gina, I'm home.
Memories are made of this.
What is this? place.
I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you got yourself killed. At RST, we rebuild the most important assets in the U.S. military. Soldiers like yourself. You're the first who we've successfully managed to bring back. But improved, enhanced. With the technology in your veins, you have an army inside you.
So do we know what RST stands for?
It will heal you instantly.
Really stupid tech.
Yeah,
Now tell me.
because in the comics it was Project Rising Spirit that did all this.
Rising Spirit
There you
Tech.
go, Rising Spirit Tech.
Maybe.
Where are you going?
I got unfinished business. To find the man who murdered my wife and kill him.
Classic Harrison Ford story. His wife and kids.
That's not good. All right, shut him down. And initiate sequence. Okay, who is the next target for elimination? Tell me, do you remember anything?
Do I know you guys?
I don't think so.
They've been manipulating you.
Hey, look, it's Dr. Octopus.
Sometimes ain't.
And initiate sequence.
Right, had that real Iron Spider vibe to it. But I like practical superheroes and villains like that.
Yeah.
Sure about that? Revenge is what makes a man like you exceptional.
You know nothing about men like me.
That is absolutely fantastic.
I feel like I just heard this. Are they playing this on repeat?
Oh, shit, that's a week out.
I don't know. I want to see what some of the reviews say because I love the comics, especially like some of the recent ones. The Return of Bloodshot, where he really gets some of his humanity back, which was really a nice twist. But he's not one to just wade into a gunfight and just let people shoot him. I mean,
No, I agree.
Yeah, he's. I mean, in the original comics, he was a guy that worked out of an ODA from Vietnam, and then when they updated the origin, same thing. He was a special operator. I mean, that he's not just going to walk in and let people shoot him just because he can take a shot, because he knows that the nanites have limits. You know, they can take him down if enough lead is thrown at him. So,
But it feels like they're really trying to hit the Wolverine Logan vibe, at least in the trailer, kind of mixed with Inception, right? They even have the swelling soundtrack and the repetition. It kind of feels like they're really trying to be like, Bloodshot's familiar. You guys can see this. Don't be afraid that it's a superhero who you don't know.
yeah, I mean, he's only been around for 25, 30 years. It's fine.
Well,
Yeah.
before you joined us, Walt, a couple people have never read Bloodshot. So how I described it was that he was, a nanite super soldier that works for the good the good guy version of Hydra, because the bosses are all evil as bleep, and the soldiers aren't so much because they're the good guys. They're working for the good guys. The bosses are just like, we have to be super evil in order to fight super evil, and that makes some super evil decisions.
Well, it all goes back
Bloodshot's
to
got
yeah.
it.
It all goes back to the what do you call it? To the overarching story of the initial Valiant universe, in that they know the world is going to be invaded by aliens. So all these people are. You have one group who are called the Harbinger Foundation, and they're creating like super psychics. And then you have the Bloodshot guys who are, they were attacking it from the. Yeah, like the soldier angle. And then you have the hardcore, which were kind of like going after both groups, and they were.
And then Exo Manowar, right? Who had
he was
from them.
The Exo Manowar touches off this like superhero kind of like arms race, because when he comes back, he is proof positive that aliens have visited Earth before and they have plans. And that's he's the one that touches off this kind of superhero arms race. So
so do you think they're going to be trying to kind of set that up with Bloodshot to do a Valiant universe?
I would hope so, but at the same time, I mean, if they did it right out of the first movie, it might be a little weird. If you went Guardians of the Galaxy right from Iron Man, you might not have had the slow burn into the rampant fan base that you have today.
I agree. And as for the psychic developer group, to me, that when I've been reading that, it's more like they're making mutants, because they have some psychics and they have some other stuff, but it very much seems like that program is to make mutants. That's the program that Livewire is always going, you made me, I want to kill you, right?
Yeah.
I would say mutants.
And there's a really great comic that's out there that tells the story of like some of the rejects. And that is really a lot of fun too. But I mean, the thing that I always enjoyed about Valiant Comics is that when there's a big dust up and there's a consequence of something, it has to be dealt with in the comics. It isn't like, wow, the Mole Man just sunk New York. Hey, this is amazing. Now let's get everybody together and it's fixed in a week. And now we have a Spider-Man taking place a week later, where in the same area that should be destroyed and take months and months to rebuild.
Oh yeah, it's like Gotham City was destroyed by a earthquake back in the 90s in DC Comics, and no one hardly ever mentions it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so
with that, they really did. I mean, that was the status quo for whatever. I mean, it was 2 years or something, but they did maintain it. I mean, Superman, everybody, the Justice League were all talking about, Gotham being under quarantine or unavailable, no man's land, right? So, I mean,
and then good guy President Luthor swept in and cleaned up Gotham.
Yeah, because that's something I'm sure everybody would believe.
I've got my Vote Luthor pin. I got at the Comic-Con that year.
Nice.
Well, I guess that brings us around to the idea that characters, you have different versions of characters. Like you were talking about Bloodshot, they reinvented him. They had to update him from a Vietnam origin to, the
Afghanistan.
Yeah, and as we talk about transitioning from the movies to the screen, I mean, what happened in New York in Avengers, they were talking about that, several movies later, and it had, a big impact on several characters, specifically Tony Stark's PTSD and his thoughts about, his role in, what happened there and how to prevent it from happening again. But,
and it was even the main plot of Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Whoa, what was that?
What was that?
Aliens.
No idea. Aliens have arrived.
Everybody still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? We can all think of transitions or different versions of characters that didn't go so well, like Ron Reynolds' Green Lantern, for instance.
Whoops,
didn't work out so well. But and if we're going to talk about, there've been about 1 million different versions of Batman, and hey, there's some of them.
Woo.
And I don't know why I have it up there twice, but for some reason I do.
There is no Batman but the animated series. There is no Batman but Bruce Timm and Paul Dini's Batman.
Oh my God.
Batman voice regardless.
I don't know how I messed up the screen here, guys. I'm sorry.
No problem, Mike.
Just keep pushing buttons.
Yep, keep pushing buttons.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy is forever how I'll hear Batman in my voice. When I read the comics, that's absolutely how it goes on in my head.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. But I always will have a soft spot for Adam West. Because
of course.
Yeah.
Adam West is the original, in my opinion, and the best still.
Yeah, although
I loved all Adam Westisms they did in the Batman Harley Quinn animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
My wife never saw Batman from the 60s. Her first Batman was Michael Keaton. So that's
wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was born in the 80s and I still saw Adam West Batmans. I've seen that was the first exposure to Batman for me, was in the middle of the night sneaking TV and watching all the reruns of all the episodes of Batman. I'm like, I love this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll always have a soft spot for Batgirl because of that show. But yeah,
Yes.
so Paul, when you're creating Union City Heroes, you know, I think like every comics universe, you've got, you know, you have a Batman type character, you have a Superman type character, and you have to put your own spin in a way to make it familiar enough to be engaging, but different enough so that it's not just, hey, we filed the Vinzoof, and, you know, hey, here's Ratman, go have fun. So,
Right, of course.
So how'd you go about doing that for Union City?
Well, it's of course a big consideration, and you want to fill in, especially when you're designing a role-playing game, kind of iconic characters that people can latch on to, and that both represent your universe and also the gaming system that you're putting together. So for me, I had a lot of thoughts about trying to make sure that there are heroes from every era, and also heroes that represent people of all kinds, right? I really wanted diversity to be a major facet of Union City and of the game. So that was one way that when I looked at the bigger comic archetypes and the iconic characters that we all recognize in comics, looking at them through that filter, or thinking about who's underrepresented in comics, because like I love the Justice League and I love the Avengers, right? And I'm on these fan sites and I'm rereading my own collection and flipping through them and looking at these covers that I love and thinking like, man, there's the Justice League, whose example of adversity was one white woman. And so when I made my universe, I really wanted to make sure that that was something I addressed. And so when I would look at certain archetypes of heroes, I had a really interesting time putting together the game, because what I did when I was trying to determine the classes that my game would use, that player would be available to players, I made a list of every superhero I could and kind of tried to categorize them in my own head as to like, what are they? What archetype does that character fall into? And it led to some really, I think, interesting perspectives on characters, on the characters that are popular, and kind of some of the overlap that we have. And then, of course, a lot of it comes from just perhaps my very American childhood with, you know, what if a cowboy was a superhero and he fought dinosaur gangsters?
Well, speaking of design, you have an interesting mechanic that isn't often seen in tabletop role-playing games when it comes to boss fights. Do you want to elaborate on that mechanic a little bit?
Oh, sure. I think it's one that most people are kind of familiar with because we see it in video games and some other kind of gaming, but that's giving supervillains stages. So I really like that in comic books you have ongoing villains. Obviously, that's a big important part of the canon. Whereas in most role-playing games, especially fantasy-type role-playing games, you fight the dragon or the lich or whatever, and your heroes fight them and kill them, and that's it. You move on to the next whatever. But in comic books, that's not what happens. You keep fighting villains over and over again. And I wanted to find a way to represent that, but still have heroes be able to, or players be able to fight and win and feel good about it. So I developed a system where there's a set of stats for the villain that's laid out, and when that villain is taken down, they then have a script in place for what they do when they would be defeated, and usually that's they try to escape, because that's a common thing. But heroes can intervene to stop them, at which point they enter a whole new phase. They have their stamina is restored. They have new powers or new abilities that represent where they are in that fight. And if the players let the villain get away, then they'll have, they'll go back to that fight another day. That's not the end of the story, but they can collect the esteem or the valor to go up in class. And I think it's a really fun, engaging way of storytelling very familiar comic book kind of stories.
And that brings up a good point. People don't know the term Valor. Valor is your game's version of experience points, correct?
Correct.
And each phase that you win as a PC will award you X amount of Valor. So if you don't take down so in a lot of games, it's all or nothing. You take down the boss or you don't, and you don't get XP, or you do. In this one, phase 1 gives you some, and there's minions that come in different phases that act in different ways, and then phase 2 will give you some more. Phase 3 will give you some more. Yeah, it's a very different mechanic for a tabletop game. Like you said, we all know it from video games. We're like, phase 1. Oh, shoot. How many phases does this boss have?
And I think you can attest, having played through one adventure, which was one big boss fight, that I think everybody was pretty excited each time that boss entered a new phase. It was a new challenge, but it was also exciting knowing that they'd defeated one stage of the villain already.
I think you're mistaking excitement for fear.
Well, yeah, I remember Brandon going, how many phases? The last phase that we did, Brandon's like, phase what?
Yeah, we came back from a bathroom break,
a good
and I'm like,
too.
Here's the best joiner we've got. You've got to be kidding me! Phase 4?
Yeah.
But also another great mechanic is a reason to not just plug at the big bad and deal with the smaller threats that are in the scenario. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Paul?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So in Union City Heroes, we have threats and conditions that exist on the board. So if civilians are in danger, if a building is collapsing or the bridge you're on has structural damage, these are things that heroes can and should deal with, but they also apply penalties to heroes overall, because heroes are distracted when these things, when people are in danger. And minions and lesser villains under a supervillain grant bonuses to that supervillain. So there are some supervillains who have swaths of minions, and mechanically each minion is potentially providing them a bonus to their attack or a certain amount of damage reduction, or allows them to redirect the damage to the minion instead of the boss, which gives an engaging way of, again, I think it's something that happens in conventional tabletop role-playing games, especially more fantasy type ones, where the powerful player characters will go for the big baddie because, of course, it's your inclination, and the sooner you take that big bad guy out, the fight is over. Right? The minions are going to scatter, but that's really not how storytelling in comic books goes. You need to wade through those ranks of Hydra goons or whatever to get to Baron Strucker, and so this gives a fun mechanical way of simulating that. It's not saying that players can't go right for the bad guy. It's just saying that they have the protection of their minions or bonuses for being in their base, what have you.
Yeah, I remember the fact that I kind of tuned out because I was answering a question of somebody's for just a moment. So I didn't catch that the tanks were giving the boss DR, and I'm like, and Brandon's like, you're gonna try and attack the boss with 20 DR. I'm like, wait, what? I shouldn't have answered that question apparently, because I didn't hear that. 20 DR, no, I think I'll just go and beat those guys up first.
So it kind of gives a natural structuring and pacing to the combats that I think feels good for the players, that represents what kind of comic book fights look like and feel like, and give the villains a fair shake to both be menacing and to keep being a thorn in the side of the players and the heroes for longer story arcs.
Now, say you got a hero that's more Bloodshot than Batman, and he wants to set off an IED in the villain's bathroom.
Sure, yeah.
Just do away with all that fighting up front. Just sneak in as a repairman. Fix the pipes. Don't worry, sir. I got your clog all set. And he sits down in the toilet and gets up, and that's it for him. Can you play that way too?
Sure, of course. That's entirely up to you and your what we call the game master, is the editor in chief in this case. But there would be checks associated with being able to go in disguise and to bluff your way in and to set the device. And I assume you'd have some power for setting explosives. And our system allows you to customize powers to represent a vast number of things. So you could take like the blast power, the same blast power somebody like Cyclops might have, but the way you customize it is by giving it the quality like explosive, fire, tech, and by designating that it, you can set it off, or it gives a pressure sensor, which will make it cost more ranks per level. So it's a pretty fun and unique way of being able to customize. It's an expansive list of powers, but it's still, I think it lets you do just about anything, including blowing up a bad guy on his toilet. So good luck with that Garth Ennis moment.
How long does it take to make a character?
So about an hour or so, I'd say. It depends how complicated you want to make them. I think a more straightforward character, if you were making like The Thing, I think you could bang it out in maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes. But because you assign...
Bricks are always pretty easy.
Right. Or cobblestones in his case.
Yeah.
But a more complicated character with more versatile powers that you'd need to take more time to build would probably be more like an hour, maybe even an hour and a half, because we allow a lot of customization using special powers, which allow you to combine other powers together to make even more unique combinations.
Right on. Talk about the art. What did you do as far as like getting? Wait, Mike's trying to say something, but is silent.
Oh yeah, I can't. I can't hear him. I don't know. Is this?
Yeah, he has problems sometimes, so he's probably gonna just log out and log back in.
Okay.
He can type the question. He can type the question so we can relate it to you before he leaves.
No, he's frozen. Maybe he'll type.
He's frozen. He'll be back.
He has messaged me. He wants to segue to our next segment.
Aha.
Oh, so, okie dokie.
Real quick, good. Just tell us about the art.
I will really quickly tell you about the art. I do all the design work, so I do sketches. I won't dig them out right now, but maybe I will. But and then I send them to my partner Antonio Garcia. He lives and works in Mexico, and he is my partner on this. We're the only two people involved in Union City Heroes. So I do my sketches, my color studies. I usually send him 3 or 4 pages of my designs on characters, as well as with individual pieces. I always do the design for like what I think the layout should be. If it's coming from any particular inspiration, I sent him that. And then he sends me back sketches. Usually I'll do a little editing of those, or I'll say, I mean, more often than not, I say, that's phenomenal, do it. And then he sends back a colored version, which I finish. I do some photoshopping, usually adding details, doing a little tweaking. And there's a page on the website that kind of shows you the whole process. And a cat, yep. But this is one example of our art here. It's got, I just printed out a bunch of stuff because I'm going to be hanging up some art here in our new office. But his art is really terrific, and at this point is iconic to Union City and Union City Heroes. We've got a bunch of new pieces coming all the time, and we're just about to get a bunch of new maps, which are going to be battle maps, and we're going to be utilizing in another way that we're in the very early stages of, but it's a really exciting project we can't wait to tell you more about in a couple months.
All right, Mike, hit that Blood Force segue. Nah, he's still... Oh, there we go. Yes, we got you.
Yay!
Yep. Hey.
Hey, so Paul, you just ran Kickstarter. You had over 100 backers, raised $7,000.
Dear God, you need to vote. You're gonna need.
We need to hear you better. We
the same problem that I told you about last segment at the end, the last 4 minutes of it, where you were like buzzing and you were very quiet. Same
Sounds
problem.
like your computer's fan.
You're just buzzing, man.
What I told you to go back and listen to, you're having the same technical issue.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yay!
Oh yeah, much better.
I was just going to say, if you want to find out more about Union City Heroes, UnionCityHeroes.com, or it's available on DriveThru RPG. And do you have guys plans for the future? A GM screen, a second edition, a cartoon series, plushies?
Yes. Let me tell you a couple things. Next time I think I'll do an interview, I'll be wearing my Union City Heroes T-shirt. We just got the in for those. That's a Kickstarter prize. But we're going to have both a starter adventure, which will give a much more clear walkthrough of the rules and the gameplay, and feature the Pteranodon of the Dino Mafia and all his raptor gangsters. And we're also planning to have a free Union City Heroes mini adventure that will be available hopefully for free comic book day, if not for free RPG day. Hopefully both.
Okay. Cool.
And then another big project that's coming probably 2021, and I don't want to talk about it yet, but it's going to be awesome.
Okay, all right. That's I'm guessing that's the movie coming out, or you guys sold right to the Filmation? Okay,
with Vin Diesel. Yeah,
with Vin Diesel. It's all about family.
Oh Lord.
So you guys have Cactus Jack, who is a superpowered cactus, and Steve Kenson with Icons has Swahara, who's a superpowered cactus.
Awesome.
There's got to be a crossover, right?
Yeah, I would love it.
So some kind of buddy cop, superpowered cacti on the run, 48 hours kind of. You can have that one for free.
You'll get an executive producer credit when the movie comes.
All right, thanks.
That's brilliant.
And speaking of crowdfunding campaigns and RPGs, and that's a horrible segue. I apologize. Usually I do better, but this whole audio-visual thing's throwing me off. Jacob, you and your friend Owen Stevens at Rogue Genius Games are currently running a campaign launched like 2 hours ago for this Starfarer Adversaries Legacy Bestiary. Holy shit, that's a mouthful. Tell us all about this.
Well, I started the Starfarer Adversaries line shortly after Starfinder was released, because much like their other products, Paizo decided to release their game with the open gaming license, and so I started creating pop culture things as little PDF monsters. Like I've done Martian tripods. Owen, like you've seen there, has done killer cannibal clowns from space, and basically that we've just been doing some monster builds for that, and that's been pretty fun. And recently, Owen contacted me and said, these are selling pretty well. You should probably take a look at the various Alien books that Paizo has done and release a giant book of anything they haven't already converted. And so I did that. I spent several months going over the Alien archives they've done. There's also an Alien Bestiary that was released by Legendary Games that converted several creatures. And I made a list of everything that no one had touched on and converted all those monsters. I did a whole bunch of new drawings to make them more science fiction-y as opposed to fantasy. And we're now doing a campaign to put that book together, maybe add a few more monsters if people are interested, and hopefully get me paid for all those months of work that I did for free.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, I just want to point out that there is a Coke machine mimic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking at right here, and I can imagine a whole campaign about tracking down the mimic master, and that's just beautiful. I love that.
If you notice, the bottle that it's spitting out is also a mimic.
I'm guessing the cola inside the bottle is also a mimic.
Could be.
I think this is some descendant of Spider Fridge.
Maybe it's the Venom version of Spider Fridge.
There we go.
There's a whole rabbit hole we're just not going to go down. But all right, so cool book. I wish I could blow up. I wish you guys had bigger previews, because I've seen this art before, and it is really great. It's just maybe I can do something here. So we are on.
Nice.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And if we scroll down, this is not an ATSD.
No, it is an Allosaurus mecha.
Allosaurus?
Yeah, if you notice at the bottom, it has these little hands.
Uh-huh.
And those are very useful hands, I'm sure. Can you guys see that at all?
I can see the
It's
graphic.
tough.
I can't see the text. The text is all just ants on the screen.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, it's a cool picture. It's just
It
kind
is.
of hard to see. On the particular website you guys are on, which is Game on Tabletop, which
Yes.
is the other crowdfunding platform for RPGs that is not Kickstarter.
Yes, we are not using Kickstarter for this. We're using Game on Tabletop. This is my first campaign using Game on Tabletop. So we're hoping to give it a try, see if it works out a little better for us than Kickstarter does, and hopefully we'll have a better experience than we've had.
Okay, so you guys just started. You're running for how long?
We're running for the next month. We're 28 days effectively.
Okay.
And yeah, we've this went up 2 hours ago. We've got 6 backers. We've only just been getting the news out, so hopefully we'll get a little more as the day progresses.
Okay, now let's say I'm a guy who runs Starfinder as my home game, and why? What's the pitch? You bump into me, at buying onion rings at KFC, and you say, "Hey, you're a Starfinder GM. You need this game." And while munching on onion rings, I'm like, "Well, sell me on it." What do you say?
Well, it has every monster from the original Pathfinder Bestiary that has not yet been converted. You want owlbears, we got owlbears. You want manticores, we got manticores. So because they've already done dragons, they've done some giants. We've got a lot more of the more esoteric monsters. We got almost all of the outsiders because there are very few demons and devils and celestials that have been converted. So we've got all those available for you. It's all ready for you, all converted. Don't have to do any of the work yourself.
So if you're a Starfinder GM who needs more monsters, this is the place to go.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. What's the entry level tier? How much does it cost you to get this beautiful thing?
$19.95. And that'll get you the PDF, and if you want, we will send you a link to a print on demand when that becomes available.
Okay, cool. Anything else we want to say about this before we wrap it up?
Please support.
Okay.
And there are uplifted owlbears, so you can play an intelligent owlbear with a lightsaber.
I was just about to say that owlbear has a lightsaber, guys.
It's hoot, roar.
That alone's worth of $19.99.
Yeah, well, that was one of the special. We put out a notice of, if we were to create a bestiary, converting as many creatures as we can, what kind of creatures do people want to see? And I got a whole bunch of things, and one of the things people said was uplifted owlbear, and I was like, how do I do that? And I spent some time, read the rules on uplifted creatures, and I said, I have figured it out. And so I wrote up uplifted owlbears. I even gave them a nice little background, so they have a reason to be in the galaxy and have things that they can do. And
may the force be with who?
Indeed.
I got nothing.
I think that was the best punctuation ever.
He took you out of your element with that one.
Yeah, usually the cheesy, stupid jokes, it's my podcast, okay? I get to make those. But that was good. I'll give you that one. So, all right. Well, hey, I need to wrap up and get back to work. Any closing thoughts, Paul?
Well, I'm really happy you guys had me on. Follow us on Facebook. We'll put up updates on our website, UnionCityHeroes.com. But there's a lot of really fun, cool stuff that we have coming down the pipeline. And right now, head over to drivethroughrpg.com or to UnionCityHeroes.com, and you can get your first edition PDF right now and an expanded print edition later in 2020.
Nice. Jacob, same question to you.
Please support the Legacy Bestiary. Please support the Patreon for BAMF so we can bring you more wonderful entertainment like this.
And you can find the Bestiary game on tabletop.com. Starfare Adversaries Legacy. Wow, that's a long title. Starfare Adversaries on Game on Tabletop. Just went live. So, anyone else closing thoughts? Brandon, you've been uncharacteristically quiet.
Oh, generally when there's a lot of people, I try and stay quiet. I enjoyed hanging out and listening. Union City Heroes was a blast when Paul ran it for us, so I highly advise people check it out.
I guess we should mention that's on our sister podcast, Babies with Knives. They can find on YouTube. We've got demo sessions of lots of games, including Union City Heroes. So, Walt, closing thoughts?
Yay, buy the stuff.
All right, and we'll catch you next time on the BAMF podcast.